A kind of new story, a new old story, a new twist on an old story. You'll remember the yarn about the bunch of district court judges, well-held district court judges, having a little bit of a knees up at the Northern Club, while in the room next door there was a New Zealand First meeting at the Northern Club, the ivy-covered building in central Auckland. I'm not a member. I don't know if I'd ever been invited to be a member of the Northern Club. Anyway, it appears, and certainly the reports at the time suggested, the judges got quite drunk and they went into the New Zealand First thing and they caused a fracas and they had to be thrown out, and the husband of one of the judges said something that could have been construed as racist, and one of the judges had to apologise. She was a district court judge. Her name was Emma Aitken. And Emma Aitken, actually, the do was part of it was her resigning her warrant, which was extended because there was a shortage of judges. She apologised at the time for unacceptable behaviour. And she has been referred to a judicial conduct panel to consider whether or not her actions brought judges and the judiciary into disrepute. But she's now decided to kind of change her story. She did issue a fulsome apology to New Zealand First and Winston Peters. But yesterday at the High Court in Wellington, her lawyer is seeking a judicial review to stop her facing the consequences of her action via this judicial conduct panel. And she seems to have come up with a completely news story as to what happened. It's quite remarkable. She's also, or her lawyer, has leaked, and obviously there was a hearing in court yesterday and some details were discussed. It's interesting. The Post based its coverage from their Wellington court reporter, based their coverage on what happened in court. But NZME, the old Herald, they got leaked documents outlining her claims about what happened. And I'm going to say the only place those documents fell off the back of to get into the hands of the Herald, that fell off a truck that was either driven by the judge or her lawyer. So she is, while she has a case before the High Court, a judicial review case, she is also trying to spin the media. And I think that's incredibly disrespectful of a judge to then try and change the attitudes towards her by going outside the court process and trying to get her story out in the court of public opinion. I think it is ill-considered, clunky, and very, very obvious. So Judge Aitken's news story is that she was confused and her actions weren't that bad and she never realised it was a New Zealand First do or that Winston Peters was speaking. Now, because she's a public person, because the story's always abroad, what I'm going to say now is my honestly held opinion, and it's not defamatory. I think it's based on a fair summation in my experience. What she doesn't do in the letter that somehow got leaked or made available to the Herald, what she doesn't say is, I was pissed as a newt, which she clearly was. She'd been to the toilet and she just turned wrong into a different room. And she saw someone she vaguely recognised, and she heard someone giving a speech about how tikanga Māori in law school was crap, which she clearly disagrees with because she's a woke judge. And she mouthed at that person, that's not true, which it is true, and then said some more stuff and got escorted out. This is so at variance with the facts as we know them, as to be laughable. I can only presume that the judge is fighting for her what will be a very generous superannuation. And if she were to lose her warrant or be disciplined, she could lose, and she is at retirement age, she could lose quite a lot of money. So the judicial review suggests that the whole process of sending her to a judicial panel has been wrong. She doesn't know what she's meant to have done wrong, and there are all sorts of procedural problems in law. look, part of me doesn't want to even spend too long going into the drunken antics of a bunch of woke judges. But the story that is now being spun by her and her legal team simply is not credible. And I've talked to a number of people in law about this. They say this is not credible. And I've wondered, and I'm wondering right now, how appropriate it is for a district court judge to use the media in this way. Why not have faith in the system that you have slurred and sullied and let the court decide? And if I was sitting on the High Court in Wellington hearing this judicial review, I guess as a judge, would look dimly on the attempts of Judge Aitken and her lawyer to play the public opinion card. And they have done it very, very clunkily. I've been involved in judicial procedures, and I've always taken the attitude that one should let that play out in the courts or in the authority. But Judge Aitken, no, she feels the need for some reason to be leaking stuff or letters made available to the Herald. We know what that means. You or your lawyer leaked it because you want to get your spin on this. I don't know if a judicial panel should go ahead. I don't think it should. I think she should resign and she should cut a deal. That means she is censured. Oh, do I want to lose her pension? It's neither here nor there to me. But clearly her conduct was unbecoming. And to try and dance on the head of a pin to get away from facing the consequences of her action, I think further brings the judiciary into disrepute. So there's an old saying, isn't there? If you are in a hole, for goodness sake, stop digging. But Judge Emma Aitken appears to have the shovel working. She appears to have hired, to be honest, a backhoe to really get down and dirty with it. Yes, I'll just read the details of what she's leaked. In a letter to the Commissioner dated January 16th, she took a wrong turn. She says she took a wrong turning while attending a judge's function, and please don't laugh, at the private club, and overheard comments from another function to the effect that law students were taught that tikanga Maori law overrides the Westminster system. She thought that statement was incorrect and mischaracterised the important role of tikanga. Well, what is the important role of tikanga? She said she mouthed the words, "That's not true," to someone who looked familiar and was sitting near the door. It was actually Cabinet Minister Casey Costello. She now knew the person was New Zealand First MP Casey Costello. In a normal tone of voice, she disagreed to the effect that it was untrue and misinformation and was difficult to remember the precise words she said. The complaint against alleged her, she said, "He's lying. How can you let him say that?" Two people put a hand on each of her shoulders and ushered her away. As she left, she turned and realised the speaker was Winston Peters. She had not known it was a New Zealand First function. She reached to an unexpected and what she thought was an unreasonable statement. She reacted to it, and if she could turn back the clock, she would not have said anything. And look, that's just... Actually, I'll tell you what we're going to do. During the break, we're going to hunt out a brilliant Little Britain clip. Have you seen the Little Britain clip of the Tory MP explaining how he fell into some... You know the one? Let's hunt that down, because this sounds very much like, well, I was going to the toilet in, Hampton Heath, and two young gentlemen wanted to talk to me about... This all sounds very convenient, the newly found memory of Judge Emma Aitken as to what precisely happened. She says, responding in the allegations, she said she did not yell and she did not think she made a scene or tried to enter the function room. Her involvement was momentary and accidental, she said. Her letter included remarks about her attitude to her role as a judge, recognition of Maori in the justice system, Maori culture and tikanga. A letter to New Zealand First apologised for the disruption she caused and for making rude, uncalled for and inappropriate comments. There you go. Aitken apologised to all attending, particularly the Deputy Prime Minister and other ministers present. Her lawyer, Paul Rishworth KC, said removing the political aspect changed the allegations against Aitken. Can I tell you, Mr. Rishworth KC, I don't think it does at all. I think she's a drunk menace. So it doesn't change the nature of the allegations. He says, short of recommending a judicial conduct be set up, the Commissioner could have referred complaints to the Chief District Court judge to deal with. Part of the judge's case for a judicial review was how far the Commissioner should have investigated the difference in accounts of what happened. Rishworth said Aitken raised 4 grounds of complaint for the Commissioner's process, that the Commissioner's decision did not set any legal standard against which to measure her conduct, that there were no sufficient reasons for his decision, that the decision was not based on sufficient inquiry as to whether the alleged conduct was sufficiently serious to warrant removal from office, and the decision did not explain or identify factors about the conduct compared to the standard. Blah, 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 dig your hole. This is rich, and this will further damage the reputation of the judiciary. She, of course, is entitled to go to the court. But, you know, the court system is the last refuge of a desperate person. And it would seem to me that Judge Aitken is desperate. And we really should not spend, as a nation, too much time or money on this. She should negotiate a graceful resignation and maybe a reduction in her superannuation for her stupidity. And if I were hearing the judicial review, and I'm not a judge, I'd be peeved that she's now trying to spin it in mainstream media.